Flight 9 was perfect, until it wasn't. Minutes after launch, fuel started leaking everywhere. The ship began spinning out of control and burned up completely. But here's the crazy part. This exact same leak has killed 3 starships in a row. Why can't SpaceX's genius engineers fix a simple leak? The answer will shock you. This problem only shows up in space, where you can't test or repair anything. Every flight they think it's fixed. Every flight, space proves them wrong. Let's dive right in. The first sign of death. So what exactly happened up there? Flight 9 lifts off. Everything looks perfect. The booster separates cleanly. Starship is flying free. Then, something invisible starts killing it from the inside. The first leak appears in the payload bay's false ceiling. A crack in the spacecraft's armor, bleeding fuel into the vacuum of space. The nitrogen purge system kicks in desperately, trying to control the damage. For a moment, it actually works. But space? Space has other plans. The second those engines shut off, all hell breaks loose. The ship starts tumbling, not gently, violently, like a broken washing machine spinning out of control. You can see particles floating inside the payload bay, drifting, spinning, as the vehicle loses all sense of direction. It's mesmerizing and terrifying, because the real killer wasn't that first leak. No, it was what came next. The death spiral begins. Here's where everything goes wrong. The tumbling triggers more leaks. Not in the payload bay this time, but in the fuel systems themselves. The lifelines that keep Starship alive in the hostile void of space. Your car needs fuel to run, right? Well, Starship needs pressurized fuel just to know which way is up. Without that pressure, the attitude control thrusters become useless chunks of metal. Picture this, tiny rocket engines designed to keep the ship pointed in the right direction. But they're starving, gasping for the pressurized fuel that's now hemorrhaging into space. The result? Total, complete loss of control. The ship spins faster and faster. The forces build up until they literally tear the spacecraft apart during re-entry. Metal shredding, components flying off into the darkness. But here's the question haunting every engineer at SpaceX. Why does this keep happening? The Block 2 curse. This wasn't supposed to happen. Period. When SpaceX unveiled Starship Block 2, they promised perfection. Thousands of improvements, stronger materials, better systems, more reliable than anything they'd ever built. Instead, they created a ticking time bomb. The nightmare began with Flight 7, the very first Block 2 mission. What should have been a triumph became a disaster that revealed something chilling. SpaceX's post-flight analysis found harmonic vibrations several times stronger than anything they'd seen in testing. These weren't just vibrations, they were seismic waves of destruction, literally shaking the spacecraft apart from the inside. But here's the twist that nobody, and I mean nobody, saw coming: the ghost in the machine. These harmonic problems aren't normal engineering failures. They're phantoms, appearing only under conditions that are impossible to recreate on Earth. A guitar string plucked gently makes a soft sound, but hit the exact right frequency, that same string vibrates so violently, it snaps in half. That's what's happening to Starship's fuel system. Right now, in space, the vibrations create what engineers call pogo oscillations. It's a feedback loop of destruction. The engines vibrate, affecting fuel flow. Changed fuel flow alters engine performance. Altered performance creates more vibrations. It feeds on itself, growing stronger, more violent, until something breaks. SpaceX thought they had this figured out with the original design. The question is, what changed? The fatal mistake. Here's where the story takes a dark turn. The original Starship used a single fuel line feeding all 6 engines. Simple, maybe crude, but it had one massive advantage. All engines experienced the same pressure changes simultaneously. When one engine started acting up, the others would help balance it out. Like musicians in an orchestra, keeping each other in perfect rhythm. Block 2 destroyed that harmony. SpaceX installed 4 separate fuel lines, 3 dedicated lines just for the vacuum engines. On paper, brilliant. Precise control over each engine individually. In reality, They removed the natural protection that kept the original design alive. Now each vacuum engine sits isolated on its own line, alone, vulnerable. Longer fuel lines are like longer guitar strings, more prone to deadly vibrations. Without other engines to provide stability, pogo oscillations build up, amplify, until they shake the spacecraft to pieces. But why couldn't testing catch this lethal flaw? The testing nightmare. This is where the engineering horror story gets worse. These killer vibrations only happen during real flight. You need 3 ingredients for disaster: high altitude, sustained 3G acceleration, and constantly changing fuel levels as tanks drain. On the ground, SpaceX runs static fire tests with full tanks. Everything looks perfect, smooth, stable. But during flight, the resonant frequency of those fuel lines changes every single second. As liquid drains, the physics change. What starts stable becomes unstable. What seems safe becomes lethal. It's like tuning a piano while the temperature keeps changing. Perfect pitch at the beginning, dangerously out of tune by the end. Could SpaceX run full-duration ground tests? Maybe, but the sustained exhaust would create a cloud of superheated steam engulfing the entire launch site. The steel flame deflector would be eroded beyond repair. The clamps holding the rocket, they'd fail catastrophically under that punishment. So SpaceX is trapped. They can't test the real problem because testing it would destroy their launch pad. The impossible decision. SpaceX now faces a choice that could determine the future of space exploration. Option 1, scrap everything, go back to the original Block 1 design, throw away every Block 2 Starship in production, delay the program by months, maybe years. But there's no guarantee the old design would work with new engines, new tanks, new missions. They could end up right back where they started. Option 2, jump to Block 3. Raptor 3 engines without heat shields. If fuel leaks, it burns off harmlessly in the engine plume instead of creating fires. But Raptor 3 isn't ready. Block 3 can only launch from Pad B, which is still under construction. That leaves 3 Block 2 vehicles, sitting on Pad A, ready to fly. Do they ground the entire program, or keep flying and hope they can solve the physics problem that's killing their rockets? Racing against time. Every flight is now a desperate experiment. Flight 7 barely survived engine startup. Flight 8 lasted longer. Flight 9 almost reached orbit before the leaks finally won. The pattern is terrifying and hopeful. Each flight survives a little longer, but the killer remains hidden in the fuel system, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. SpaceX engineers are literally racing against the laws of physics. Adding safeguards, strengthening components, trying to outsmart vibrations that want to tear their creation apart. But here's what makes this truly dangerous. If a Starship reaches full orbit with these fuel leaks, it might not restart its engines for the return journey. Instead of a controlled ocean landing, it would break up randomly over populated areas, debris raining down on cities, on families, on people who never signed up to be part of this experiment. The secret solutions. What can SpaceX actually do? The options might surprise you. First, real-time leak detection. Sensors monitoring fuel pressure every millisecond. If a leak starts, the spacecraft performs an immediate deorbit burn before the tanks lose critical pressure. Second, emergency pressure vessels. High-pressure gas bottles that could repressurize fuel tanks in crisis. It violates SpaceX's simplicity philosophy, but it could save lives. Third, backup attitude control. A completely separate system that doesn't depend on main fuel tanks. More complexity, but it keeps the spacecraft oriented for safe return. Each solution adds weight, adds cost, adds complexity. But the alternative? Watching billion-dollar spacecraft die in space while the world loses faith in the future of human spaceflight. The clock is ticking. With each failure, pressure mounts to find answers. The question isn't whether SpaceX's engineers can solve this, it's whether they can solve it before the next catastrophic failure makes the decision for them. Can they tame the invisible force that's killing their dreams? Or will physics win this deadly game of engineering chess? Musk admits Mars 2026 is impossible, then orders 5 starships to launch anyway. 5 massive rockets. 1 26-month window. Zero room for failure. SpaceX engineers are working around the clock on a mission their own CEO calls impossible. Heat shields untested for Mars entry, fuel systems never proven in deep space, landing tech that's failed before. But here's the shocking part. Musk isn't crazy. There's a hidden reason he's risking everything on this impossible timeline. What does he know that we don't? Let's dive right in. The shocking truth behind Musk's impossible statement. The room went silent when Musk said it. Mars 2026? Impossible. But then he did something that stunned everyone. He ordered 5 starships to launch anyway. This wasn't just another Musk announcement, this was different. The man who revolutionized rockets, who made reusable boosters reality, who changed space forever, admitted his own deadline couldn't be met. Yet SpaceX engineers are working around the clock. Building, testing, racing against time they don't have. Why would someone deliberately chase failure? The answer reveals a strategy so bold, it's either genius or madness. The secret race nobody sees coming. While the world watches SpaceX build starships, something terrifying is happening behind the scenes. China isn't just planning Mars missions, they're accelerating them. Their Mars sample return mission, originally scheduled for 2030, now targeting early 2030s. NASA's pushing commercial partnerships harder than ever. The space race isn't just heating up, it's about to explode. And Musk knows what others don't. The first nation to establish Mars infrastructure doesn't just win bragging rights. They control the future of human civilization. Water rights on Mars, mining claims, the foundation of interplanetary power. Think about this. Whoever lands first, stays first. And that reshapes everything about Earth's future. But here's where it gets really interesting. Musk isn't just racing other countries. He's racing against something far more dangerous. His own timeline. The technical nightmare SpaceX faces 5 starships to Mars sounds simple. The reality is absolutely brutal. Each Mars-bound starship needs multiple refueling flights. That's 20 to 25 launches. In just 6 months. The math is staggering. Current Starship has never completed full orbital refueling, not once. They're betting everything on technology that's never been proven. The heat shield situation is even worse. Those black ceramic tiles protecting Starship during re-entry? They've never faced 7 months in deep space. Cosmic radiation bombarding them constantly. Micrometeorites hitting at 45,000 miles per hour. Temperature swings from minus 250 degrees to plus 250 degrees. Mars entry is a nightmare scenario. Earth's atmosphere is thick and forgiving. Mars' atmosphere is paper thin, but still dense enough to create massive heat during landing. It's like threading a needle while falling off a cliff, in the dark. During an earthquake, one mistake, game over. But Musk is betting everything on Starship V3. And that's where things get really crazy. The V3 gamble that could change everything. Starship V3 isn't just an upgrade, it's a complete redesign. Larger structure, brand new Raptor engines, systems never tested in space. Normal aerospace companies take 5 to 7 years validating new technology. SpaceX has 18 months. The new Raptor engines promise massive leaps in efficiency. But efficiency means nothing if they explode during the 7-month Mars journey. These engines have never fired continuously for longer than a few minutes. Here's the brutal reality. SpaceX needs flawless performance on technologies they're still developing. One engine failure during Mars transit, mission over. Heat shield failure during Mars entry, explosion on impact. The stakes couldn't be higher. Yet Musk doubled down on this impossible timeline. What does he know that we don't? The infrastructure secret that changes everything. Those modest 10-ton payloads for 2026 missions? Everyone thinks it's because of technical limitations. The truth is far more strategic. Those 10 tons aren't random cargo. They're the foundation of something unprecedented. Solar arrays for power generation, communication equipment for Earth contact, and most importantly, the Optimus robots. These aren't just construction workers, they're Mars's first colonists. While humans need oxygen, food, sleep, and protection from radiation, Optimus robots thrive in conditions that would kill us instantly. They can work during Martian dust storms. They can operate in the thin atmosphere without spacesuits. They can survive the 7-month journey without life support. By the time humans arrive on Mars, robots will have already built their cities. But this creates a disturbing question. Who really controls Mars? The humans who fund the missions, or the robots who build the infrastructure? The 2028 explosion nobody saw coming. If 2026 succeeds, 2028 becomes the launch pad for something unprecedented. Not 5 starships,